Well, it looks like Vladimir Putin has gone too far with his nuclear threats. The United States of America will conduct a test of the Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile, following President Donald Trump's order to begin nuclear testing. The Minuteman III is a solid-fueled, silo-based intercontinental ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. Weighing 36 tons, the missile can cover a distance of up to 10,000 kilometers at speeds of up to 25,000 kilometers per hour. Moreover, Trump himself accused Russia and China of secretly testing nuclear weapons and stated that the United States does not intend to stand aside while other countries conduct nuclear tests. Although he also called on both countries to negotiate denuclearization. In general, the United States is seriously determined to flex those very nuclear muscles. But in the meantime, people in Russia are living in their own parallel world. The press drunkard of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Mashka Zakharova, stated that the West is very afraid and trembling over new tests of Russian weapons that may follow the demonstration of the Burevestnik missile. Supposedly, in the West, they're almost begging Putin to stop and not threaten them with nuclear weapons, which, as we can see, is far from the truth. I'm Alexei Pichi. Let's discuss this together. But before we start this episode, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, give it a like, and leave any comment you want. Also, subscribe to my Telegram channel, Pichi News. It's called that, and the link is in the description of this video. There, we post breaking news as soon as it comes in. And friends, if you want to support the work of this YouTube channel, you can do so with any donation using the links and details in the description of this video. It says there, support Alexei Pichi's channel. Pick any format that works for you. I would be grateful for any support from you, whether it's a donation, sponsorship, or a subscription. The United States has officially announced the Minuteman III intercontinental ballistic missile test after President Donald Trump ordered nuclear tests. The test launch of the missile without a nuclear warhead is scheduled for July 5th. On November 6th from Vandenberg Military Base in California. According to the plan, the missile should reach the Ronald Reagan Missile Defense Test Site on Kwajalein Atoll in the Pacific Ocean. Minuteman III is a solid-fueled, silo-based intercontinental ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead. It was adopted into service in 1970, and it remains the only intercontinental ballistic missile of this type in the American arsenal. Currently, the United States has 400 of these missiles, which are regularly tested and upgraded. The Minuteman III has impressive features. With a weight of 36 tons, the missile can cover a distance of up to 10,000 kilometers at a speed of about 25,000 kilometers per hour. It is important to note that the launch of this missile by the Americans will take place against the backdrop of recent statements by Vladimir Putin about the completion of tests of the Burevestnik cruise missile and the Poseidon nuclear torpedo. Putin described the Burevestnik as a unique product that no one else in the world has. However, international experts have reacted skeptically to the Russian development. And now the Wall Street Journal, citing missile technology experts, described that Burevestnik has design flaws and is more of a political tool than an effective weapon. The publication highlighted the missile's slow speed and complex design, raising the risk of malfunctions. And so Western experts have generally called the Burevestnik missile an anachronism. Its speed is significantly lower than the speed of sound. And missiles like these are being shot down more and more often, by the way, in Ukraine, because they are not supersonic since modern air defense systems can easily detect them. Hypersonic missiles, which have already been developed by Russia and China, have great potential, but even those have already been learned to be intercepted. And another downside is the obvious complexity of the Burevestnik missile, which increases the risk of malfunction. The missile has several drive systems that must be perfectly synchronized for launch and to ensure flight. The power of the nuclear reactor alone is not enough to launch the missile and bring it to the required trajectory. In addition, this increases the cost and complexity of production, maintenance, and operation. So what does that mean? Scientists can indeed make such a device by hand in the lab, but whether it can be put into mass production is still an open question, because it's very, very difficult. I would say that Moscow's statement about Burevestnik is a propaganda show, since it came against the backdrop of NATO's nuclear exercises and Donald Trump's decision to impose his first sanctions against Russia. And about Burevestnik. I like the expert's idea that any rational adversary, upon detecting the launch of a nuclear cruise missile, would be forced to consider it as the start of a war, and might launch a preemptive strike, including conventional non-nuclear intercontinental ballistic missiles. As a result, Burevestnik loses its meaning as a weapon of retaliation and becomes a weapon of self-destruction, not physical but strategic. That is, the missile won't even have time to reach its target before Moscow is already under attack. And in addition, Burevestnik could become a target even before launch, since its nuclear reactor will emit radiation that can be easily detected from great distances, including from space. As soon as this missile is activated, it can already be detected right in the launch pad. Nevertheless, the official representative of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Mashka Zakharova, recently stated, quote, "The West is very afraid of new tests of Russian weapons that may follow after the demonstration of the Burevestnik missile. Western countries are now giving feedback about the Burevestnik. They aren't silent, their mild joy is turning into excitement. They are very afraid of what we will show them next." Well, later, as you know, Putin announced the successful test of the Poseidon nuclear torpedo, which, according to him, has no equals in terms of speed and depth of movement. You know, for me, Putin has long since turned into a kind of 21st century Hitler. Hitler also used to boast about his super-duper mega weapons and so on. This is an exact copy. He's the same kind of crazed dictator, you know, someone who simply can't survive without war. If there's no war, that's it. He'll be done for, God willing. That's it. Trump called Putin's boasting inappropriate and reminded him of a United States nuclear submarine near Russia. On October 30, the United States president ordered the Pentagon to start testing nuclear weapons immediately. The day before, Trump said the United States would not stand by while other countries conducted nuclear tests. Quote, "Russia announced new tests, North Korea tests constantly, and other countries are testing too. I don't want us to be the only country not testing." When asked if this means that the United States will resume detonating warheads after more than a 30-year break, the American president repeated, quote, "We will test nuclear weapons just like other countries." Then he expressed confidence that many are doing this secretly. Quote, "Russia is testing, China is testing, but they don't talk about it. And of course, North Korea is conducting tests, and Pakistan is conducting them too." And here's what's important. Trump assures that before announcing that the United States would resume nuclear testing, he discussed the issue of denuclearization with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese Chairman Xi Jinping. But apparently there is no progress on this issue yet. Still, it's important to note one thing, quote, "Korea." United States Secretary of Energy Chris Wright stated that nuclear weapons tests will not include warhead tests for now. Quote, "I think the tests we're talking about now are system tests. These are not nuclear explosions. This is what we call non-critical explosions. Such tests include all other parts of nuclear weapons to make sure they have the proper geometry and can trigger a nuclear explosion." Quote, quote. And finally, I'll add that the United States has not conducted nuclear weapons explosion tests since 1992, when President George Bush Sr. announced a moratorium. Quote Severnaya, "The inadequate behavior of wild, frenzied Russians is causing the world to slide back into a Cold War." Quote follows. I'll put an ellipsis here. Friends, share your opinions and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to leave a like. That's all. Take care. Goodbye.